Hey guys, welcome back. Glad you're here today. I've got a new project started right over somewhere there. Got some steel in the forge, some Damascus that I'd already made up before. Kind of freewheeling it here, no real design other than kind of what I've kind of drawn out a little bit, but can bring you guys along. Probably gonna be a long video. Trying to talk too much, but I'll let you guys know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. So, steel's been in there for a few minutes. It's ready to start being forged out. Alright, while that's in there heating up, maybe you can make that out, but this is kind of what I'm after right here. It's going to be a hidden tang knife. I hardly ever do those, but I've been finding a few antler sheds out in the woods here lately, and I want the handle to be deer antler. This is going to be a brass guard of sorts, and then that's the basic shape of the knife I'm making. Obviously going to be Damascus pattern. So what I'm working on right now is getting the point, kind of a clip point drawn out. Going to be pretty short, pretty small, and then I'll start working on the hidden tang part of it that we'll be able to refine and fit down into an antler. But that's my plan. We'll see how it comes from there. Alright, cool. Well, while the steel is cooling down, I was going to show you guys these antler sheds that I found out in the woods here recently. This is one of the first ones I found. This one actually today. I don't think I'm going to be able to use much of that one. This one feels quite a bit better in the hand. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how and where I want to cut it, and this is going to be kind of a cut and sand to finish. Gonna probably try to hide a lot of crimes with it. I'm not quite sure. I do have to get some brass stock that I'm gonna make the guard out of. But once I get some of that, we'll give this another shot, and we'll see what we can do. I've only made one other antler handle knife, hidden tang. I've made a few other hidden tang knives. They're not at all my favorite, but we're gonna give it a shot and see what we can do. All right, so I got my handle cut out. I've got some brass, 1.5 by 3/8 inch, that I'll be cutting a little piece off for the guard for this. As much as I want to start working on the handle right now, I need to kind of finish up a little of this work. I want to get the profile down a little bit more. Going to be a bit more of a clip point. I'm going to come down here, shallow it up there. I need to get rid of a bunch of this. And then, even before that, I've got to do some flattening, getting the taper right, get the bevels in and stuff like that. And kind of once I get to a point similar to that, what I will do is we'll start working on the handle, a little bit of fit up before we go to heat treat. But just stay tuned, and we'll get to working on this. So I'm going to take you over to the grinder now, and we'll start plowing away at some of this excess material. Okay, so there we go. I kind of want to work on this a little bit, not even close to being done. Got a nice flat knife. So what I think I'm going to work on now is kind of starting to mock up the guard, because I'm going to have to cut this tang off. I'm going to try and eyeball kind of about where I need to do that, and kind of start making some marks here and there. I guess I'm going to be cutting the tang off right in this range. Kind of somewhere about here. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole, a pretty good size hole in here, take a piece of this brass and put it in that, and then just fill that hole with this brass, then sand it back smooth. That way, once I get everything heat treated, I'll drill the hole, heat treat it, and then put the brass in. But when I get that in, I'll be able to kind of have a pretty good idea of where that hole is, and I'll be able to drill a hole through the antler, through that brass, and through the other side, and that way I'll have a pin, a mechanical connection, holding that in as well. And another thing, you'll see this, I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a couple of holes pretty close to the middle, and then just a couple pilot holes on that, just to index the guard on there properly. I'll just use some brass rod or something like that, super glue, just to index it. And then when the final fit up, we'll use epoxy. This stuff's really dense, so drilling and broaching that out is going to be it'll be fun, but it's going to look pretty cool. It's going to be very, very different. Not something I've done much of before, but it's going to have a pretty significant curvature to it, kind of along those lines. But good skinning knife. Hopefully it'll all look nice. The other thing on the guard, what I hope to do is this part here will obviously be shaped to match the antler. Like so, and then it'll kind of come down almost like a trigger guard on or a trigger for the most part, something like that. And I've got enough thickness there that I can kind of make it curve back towards my finger, kind of a finger rest, so to speak. But that is the hope, the plan, the goal, so to speak. Obviously have a slot that will fit all of this. Yeah, I may need to go further down. Oh, I'm going all the way down to here, so yeah, that'll be fine. I didn't draw this right. I can't draw worth a damn anyways, so kind of like that, and then slot for the knife, for the blade, hole for the tang. It's a lot easier for me just to do it than it is to draw it. Actually, I know I failed art at some point in grade school. So I'm gonna go cut this on the bandsaw and kind of start mocking a few things up, and then when we're a little closer to being ready, take this over to the mill and start, milling the slot for this. I'm trying to be around 1/8 of an inch. I'm a little over 1/8 right now. So we'll go get this cut off, and then we'll start dinking around with the rest of it. Alright, so here we are. We're set up in the mill. Got this thing. I don't need that right there. A little dirty, but we're ready to go. So I'm gonna make a couple minor adjustments. Get down here close. And I have pretty much no idea what I'm doing on this machine. It's been nice to have, but it would be nice to know what I was doing as well. Okay, we're gonna start there and just slowly kind of make a little slot in there. right, let's go see if I screwed that up or not. Watch your ears. See if you can see what I'm seeing, but so there we go. We got our little slot cut out, and let's go see how it fits on the knife. Hopefully it's not going to fit. I'm hoping that I'm going to have to do a lot of little small file work because I want a really tight tolerance fit, but let's go see. All right, so we've got our guard, or what's going to be the guard, fit up, and I just kind of lightly tapped it in there. It's going to take a little to get it off, so very nice tight fit. Still going to have to do some sanding on this to get it cleaned up, but that'll loosen the fit up a little bit, but we'll kind of work our way around that. Shouldn't be much of an issue. We're not going to remove that much material. What I'm going to start doing now is hollowing out the hole for the tang to fit into this. Once I get that down, I'm going to do a couple of indexing pins adjacent to this hole that we can put some, just some round stock brass or something in there, glue it, and then that way we can get this lined up and it'll hold tight while we kind of do some shaping of the handle and stuff of the guard, and that way. So I'll be using a Dremel. This is I think it's a drywall cutting bit or something of that sort. I'm going to see how this works. It's kind of, I have some drill bits and I got a couple of burrs, but they're not going to be quite, maybe just close to being long enough to get in there. But I'm going to try this one first. It'll kind of cut sideways, but we'll see how that works out.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together, it's so beautiful. You and me, we meant to be great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. You and me, meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
Okay. Here we go. Nice tight fit up all the way around. Can't even see light through it, so that's awesome. Now what I am going to do is drill a couple of holes on each side here, just about here and here, something like that. And then I'll take some of this brass rod. It's real small, real fine. Take a small hole, put it in there, and just gonna make a couple of dowel pins. I'm gonna put it in here first, and then I'll be able to kind of hopefully get an idea on here where hopefully it'll scratch the brass here. I'll kind of have an idea where I can place the holes in there, so that we'll have some kind of clocking, can't think of the right word, but so that we can get it just positioned and held into the right spot. Yeah, clocking, just kind of the timing, so to speak, just something to hold it right. But do that right quick, and just keep moving along. Trim these down just a touch. There we go. So now that'll kind of, I'm going to press that on like I would if I were gluing it, but it's going to be kind of temporary. So there's kind of what I was talking about. Just went and kind of did that off camera a little bit. What you think? I think it's going to be a really cool knife. Got a decent handle, nice feel to it. I like it. Gonna do everything I can to make it turn out great. So what I'm going to do now to kind of cut down on the length of this video is we're going to go start doing some work on the blade. We're going to grind in the bevels just a little bit, not completely all the way. Not going to thin it down too much. We're going to try and mill out a little slot here to put some brass in, peen over, pinch it in there really well so that we can, after it's hardened, we'll be able to drill a hole and not have to disrupt anything. Otherwise we'd have to be trying to drill through steel and bone at the same time. This is going to be hardened. It'll be tempered back some, but I'm going to harden the whole blade. So I'll show you that. This may end up being multiple part series video, but let's go start working on the blade and get the bevels in. And you know what we might do? We might do heat treat today. See how quickly the bevels go in. Everything else has gone in pretty. It's gone a lot faster than I kind of thought it would. So off to the grinder we go. Okay, so we've kind of got everything mocked up, fitting tight. I went ahead and milled a hole out of that, cut a piece of brass that I'll fit down in there, beat the hell out of it. I don't remember, maybe I already beat the hell out of it and fit it down in there. I can't remember. And I'm going to cut it off, but just wedge that in there. Then once everything's hardened and ready to go, I'll beat the hell out of that, flatten it out so that when I can put it in there, drill a hole, it'll be able to drill through this softer brass here. So that's the plan. I've got the forge lit and warming up. I'm also warming up my quench oil, which is Parks AAA. I'm going to go through a couple of three normalizing cycles, which is where I'll get this up to temperature, critical temperature. I'll have a magnet, and if the magnet doesn't stick to it, then that's critical temperature. I'll put it in the vise and just let it cool down. No air flowing around it, just still air. Let it cool down to touch, safe, comfortable to touch. Do that 3 times. Then we'll throw it into the forge once we've done that and get it up to temperature, again critical temperature, and we'll go into the oil. As soon as we're out of the oil, I'm gonna file test it. I've got a couple of files here. This is just a bastard mill file, Nicholson. Currently it will dig in. After hardening, my experience has been this will not, it just skates across. However, this is a chainsaw file, and it really digs in. And what I've noticed, if I try and file test it with this, I'm not sure what the Rockwell is on these. I know I can tell you without a doubt it's harder than just this standard file. Been curious, been kind of searching on the web trying to figure that out. If anyone knows about what the Rockwell is of a chainsaw file, let me know. Leave it in the comments down below. But I'm also going to check it with this and see. Once I know that we've got a good hardness on the blade, I've got a couple flat pieces, little pieces of steel, piece of aluminum. I know they'll cool differently, but everything should be good. I will go ahead and clamp that nice and tight, making sure it stays straight, and then we'll throw it into the oven and temper it about 400 degrees, 375, 400 degrees for a couple hour cycles. So that's what we're going to do. I'll record video some of those steps and just let you watch along. Alright, so here we go. Last normalizing cycle. I'm gonna throw it into the forge, get it up to critical temperature, and then we're gonna quench it in that right there. Parks AAA. So, here we go. Nice and straight. Let's see here. Took all the scale off of it for the most part. The pattern really kind of started to pop. Let's see. That skates. Here's this chainsaw file, and this thing's still pretty hot, so it's still somewhat soft, but yeah, it skates, but it bites a little bit. It bites a little bit more than that, but it does still skate on there. So I think now, yeah, it's skating even more now. So I think we're good. No cracks or anything like that. It's got a little tiny minor warp, but that's going to get straightened out in the temper. I'm just gonna press it between those two plates, clamp it down, and we'll be good to go. But we've got a blade now. So here's where we're at thus far. Oop, sorry about that. Guard is roughed out and ready to go. Blade has been heat treated, and I ground all the scale off of it, kind of profiled it a little bit more. The next step, I'm just going to keep sanding away at this till we get a really nice near mirror finish before we etch it, and then we'll etch it and reveal the pattern, and then glue this up. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more work on the guard before we glue up, but then we'll glue this up, throw our pin in there, and then be just about done. So I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of talking on this. It's just a bunch of sanding. Just kind of throw some time lapse on there and go to town. So here we are. You can see me in the reflection on the blade, so near mirror polish. Didn't take very long. I do not like to hand sand, so I try to avoid it as much as possible. But that is all that we need for Damascus. I don't see any reason to have to, unless you're kind of getting some deep gouges out or something like that. You might have to focus on an area hand sanding, but again, I kind of try to get it all done with a machine. That's what it's for. So what I am going to do next is my touch mark, my Lazy J, and the initials for the customer on the spine right here. So I'll probably make another video about how I do it and what I use. I'll show you how I'm doing it, but to cut out the or to make my stencil or whatever, I'm not going to get into all of that. So let me get that done and I'll show you how I etch it, but I'm not going to go through the whole process of the stencil. Alright guys, so we're now ready to etch the initials here on the blade. What I've done is I've cut out, I have a vinyl cutter that I purchased, and I cut out the initials, or had it cut those out. I'm going to take those initials, I'm going to place them just the letter on the spine here, and then this here is a DC power supply, Even Tech. It's a 0 to 30 volt, 0 to 10 amp DC power supply, about $60. This is vinegar and salt, and then some Q-tips. What you'll do is you'll put your positive lead on the blade, and then the negative lead will go on the Q-tip that you dip in that, and then you'll put it on there and it'll etch the metal away. So I'm putting the letter on, and I'll show you this, but I'm putting the letter on. I want it to eat the metal away from around the letter, so the letter is raised. That way, once we etch the rest of the blade, finally polish it off, there's going to be two letters that stand out really proud. So I'm going to go ahead and put those letters on here. I've already cleaned it off really well. I got all the oil and grease and stuff off. Hopefully these letters come out nice, come off nice of the vinyl. Some letters seem to be more difficult than others. G does not seem to be very easy. Nope, it comes out like an O. That's not bad. W is the next one. It seems like it's going to be pretty good. Looks pretty good thus far. Yes. There's a nice glare coming from the light onto the steel, so I'm trying to cover that so that I can see. Well, press them down, make sure that there's good contact between the letter and the steel. Hopefully that's going to turn out pretty good. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take our Q-tip, dip it in our electrolyte solution, and then just start dabbing it on there. My voltage is a little high, but it'll etch away really quickly. The higher the voltage, the faster it's going to etch away. And I want to avoid it getting too hot, so I'm just kind of dabbing it. I don't want the letter to come up like halfway through the process. And I like to, when I can, try and leave the letter on while I etch the blade in the ferric chloride, just to kind of give a more pronounced the ferric chloride will also etch away where the steel's not covered, so that's my hope. One of the things, if you reverse the electrodes here, if you take the positive and use it and do the same process, what you end up actually doing is it'll mark the steel. It won't etch the steel away. So if you just want to put some kind of a marking on there, you can do that as well. If you didn't have Damascus that you were going to etch or anything like that, and you wanted to just to mark something but not have it actually eat away at the steel, you just reverse your electrodes there. Okay, I think that will do it. Don't know if that's going to come into focus very well or not, but when I remove the vinyl from there, that will be raised, and I can feel there's a difference in there already. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to etch this blade. It's ready to go into the ferric chloride and show that Damascus pattern. I had already done my my touch mark, my Lazy J. So I'm going to clean this off, and we're going to go into the ferric chloride for a couple of I don't know, for a while, a few cycles, probably 15 to 30 minutes at a time, kind of clean it off a little bit, and then do that again. That pattern should pop out real well, but you guys will definitely get to see that. So here we go, into the ferric chloride. Alright guys, so here, this is instant coffee, really thick. You can see the sludge on the bottom. I poured probably about that much of it in hot water, and our knife has been sitting in there. Just gonna let it sit overnight. I'll show you guys the pattern. I think it looks beautiful. Turned out really nice. So you can see the video where I make the mosaic pattern. I'll put a link to it, the fairy flip mosaic pattern. But here we go. All right, are you ready? I hope you can see that. Get in the viewfinder here. But there you go. That's our pattern. I think it looks fantastic. I'm going to take a little some 2000 grit paper with a wood backing and sand that, and that'll take these areas, they're kind of dark right around where my finger is. That's the 15 and 20, the high nickel, and it'll take those out. But kind of looks like a campfire or something, I'm not sure, but turned out pretty fantastic. So this is going to be our setup, and we are just about ready to go through some final assembly. Which I think we're at. I was going to, I've been talking about putting some brass in there, trying to expand it out, but I did it off camera and it actually cracked. They got too thin right there and beating on it. I think it's just gonna be full of epoxy. Epoxy will harden up, that pin will hold all the way through. Again, this antler's very dense, so, and we've got quite a bit of material there. I am going to put some divots in that and on the face of this so that the epoxy will kind of bleed through and make a bond. Kind of the indexing pins they twist a little, they're a little small, but I think that'll give it a little bit more of that. And then when all that's full of epoxy and cured with the pin, I think it'll be forever together. So I'm gonna go do that right quick, and then we'll get to gluing this thing up. Too much than not enough. Trying to get any bubbles that might be in there out. All right, we're gonna let that, I mixed up way more than I needed, but this will be a good test to see how far along the cure is inside of there. It's already getting warm, so it is starting to chooch. Once this is cured and is real nice and hard, we're gonna go ahead and drill our hole for the pin to lock this thing together. And I think all I have to do is put an edge on it, using a natural antler like that, and not having to fiddle with the scales and the tang, or a little simpler. So we're just going to let that sit there and let the glue set up. But it is together now. Hopefully to never come apart, and once we get that pin in there, it shouldn't. Alright guys, so here we are, finally. We are done. I hope you guys can see how beautiful that is. That pattern just turned out remarkable. The whole knife in general turned out remarkable. I'm super pleased with it. Got the initials GW, maybe see those, I don't know if the camera's focusing or not, but it's a nice sharp knife, forever knife, comfortable in the hand, and a work of art to look at. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, a like, hit subscribe. I always appreciate that. If you got any questions or comments, please let me know. Just leave them down in the comments below. Thanks for sticking along, guys. Appreciate it.